Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to part 17 to our Ninja Platformer tutorial series. This series was made possible by the students who purchased my Godot courses. There's a link in the description if you're interested in those. Currently, my Action RPG course for intermediate Godot users is on sale until the end of this month. In this video, we're going to take our player character and we're going to give them a hurt state. We're going to give them some sort of a flash effect, maybe a shake, some things like that. Let's start by adding a new animation player, because we're going to do this similarly to the way we did our enemy cannon with an animation player. Call this effects animation player. We'll add a new animation called hit flash, just like our enemy. I'm going to set the length to, I'm going to set the snapping here to 0.1, the length to 0.5. Let's zoom in a bit. And the first thing we need to do is come into our player. I'm going to select both these by holding Control. Come into Material and drag over our effects material. Then we want to, inside of our animation, we want to key flash enabled on hit. Why didn't it key? Go. You can see it should key it for both the sprite upper and the lower because I have both of them selected. At 0.2 seconds, I'm going to disable flash and key it off. We're going to come into the reset animation, make sure both of these are set to disabled flash because the reset animation is the default state for this animation player, and we don't want our player to start off all flashed like that by default. Now we want our character to be invincible during this flash, actually during this whole kind of time frame here. We're going to come into our hurt box, and our hurt box, the is invincible property on the hurt box isn't exported, so we can't key it in the editor, but we can easily add an export before this var here, which will allow us to key that in the editor. Now we can key is invincible as on, come to the end of this and key is invincible off. And inside of our reset, we don't want our player to be invincible all the time, so we want to set is invincible to off by default. In code, when we take a hit, before we're just destroying the character. Now we want to get access to our animation effects player. Drag it over, hold Control, release, and then call to get access to it, and then call play hit flash. We'd also like to do a couple things here. We'd like to add some knockback to the player. So we can calculate our knockback like this. Var x direction is equal to global, let's see, other hitbox dot global position dot direction to global position. That gets the direction from their hitbox to us. And then we can do .x, so we can get only the x value. And then we can take this whole value and we can put it inside of a sign, which will make it either -1 or 1. Except there's an exception case where it could be equal to 0. If x direction is equal to 0, x direction equals -1. That's just in the rare chance that our player and our enemy hitbox are perfectly lined up, and this value right here returns 0, we want it to default to -1, which would knock our player back to the left. And the knockback value is going to be velocity x equals x direction times max speed. Simple enough. Now, we also want to bounce our character up a little bit. I'm going to use the jump function to do this. But our jump function by default doesn't allow any arguments, and I'd like to only jump by half. What we could do is we can actually pass in an amount into our jump function and then use amount instead of jump amount. But then our old jump functions here would require us to add some amount. We could do that, or we can give our jump function a default value for this argument, and we can set it equal to jump amount by default. So our amount now, we can either not pass in an argument and it will just use jump amount by default, or we could pass in an argument and use that amount. So up here, we can call jump, and we can do negative, or we can do jump amount divided by 2, which would give us half of a jump. So let's take a look at what this looks like so far, because this is a pretty good start. So we jump onto our enemy and boom, we take a hit and kind of take some knockback away from the enemy. Now, if we run into the enemy, it kind of doesn't look great because we can still move. Or when we take damage, we can still move. So I'd like to disable input on the player for just a little bit. There's different ways we could do this. We could make a whole hit state. Could just make a variable called isInputDisabled and then not allow getting input when it is disabled. Oh, interesting. I didn't know I'd accidentally minimize that. What's going to be easiest here? I think we should just do a new state. That's what my gut tells me. Let's do a hit state. In this hit state, all the way down to the bottom of our state machine, add state.hit. In this hit state, we want to call move and slide. We want to call apply gravity friction. Which takes delta. We want to call apply gravity. Gravity delta. Just like this. Okay. And then we want to be able to exit this state. Luckily for us, our player's state is actually exported. Inside of our hit flash, we can just go, I'd like to exit the state right when the flash is over, allowing the player to move around again before their invincibility wears off. But, yeah, so right here, come to our player, we'll key move state right here. That way we enter the move state right when the flash wears off. Let's see how this feels. Okay. Clearly, we can still take input. And that's because we forgot to enter the hit state. Right here, we want to say state equals state dot hit. Now you could actually enter, you could put this, you could key this inside of the animation, but I think it makes more sense to do it in code. It's kind of a little bit of an exception to set the state in an animation like that. I wouldn't be doing that very often. Now we've got a good hit state. This is looking good. Okay, but we want to set the animation so that it's not the running animation. We'll come into our player and we'll say animation player lower dot play jump. Now order here matters. Down here in our hit state. Our apply friction and apply gravity, if we do those after moving the character, it allows the jump to actually take effect correctly. If you do them before calling move and slide, it's going to work a little bit differently. I can show you what that looks like. I'll just Control C, comment this out real quick, put it before. So what does this look like if you apply friction and stuff before moving the character? What happens is it's normal if you jump onto it, but if you run into it, The jump works fine, but the character's friction actually applies the ground friction amount because we're actually on the ground. The reason we're on the ground is because we haven't called move and slide after calling jump. So when we call jump, we set our velocity, but we haven't actually moved yet. So right up here, you see where we're calling jump? We're setting the velocity, but we're not actually moving the character. When we get down to apply the friction, we still haven't moved the character yet. It's going to apply the ground friction, which is very strong and immediately sets our velocity x value to 0. The air friction is actually what we want. And so you can do this by moving first, calling move and slide, which will then move us up and will then say, oh, we're no longer on the ground, we're in the air. This is the easiest solution, in my opinion. The other thing you could do is manually apply air friction instead of the hit state and move and slide at the end of the state still. I think this is the best solution. Okay, now this is looking pretty good so far, but we've got a few problems. You know, before we finish though, let's actually really quickly, we're going to create a shaker for our player character, just like we did for the enemy. Create a shaker. Do it down here. OnReady var shaker sprite 2D. Do we have access to our sprite? We'd want to pass in the anchor. That would shake the whole sprite character that way. And then inside of our shaker here, we can just, when we take a hit, oops, shaker.shake, and then what amount did we, let me check the amount. Okay, I did a value, well, let's see, in player, I did a value of 3 and a duration of 0.3 like this. So let's add that little effect, see how it looks. Whoa. I'm seeing some weird jittery stuff on my end. Hold on just a second. You might not be seeing it in the recording, but I think it's a VSync issue. So I'm going to turn VSync off temporarily just so it doesn't mess with me. I think there's a driver issue on my computer where VSync doesn't work sometimes in Godot. Yeah, that's way cleaner. Okay. Okay, so our character has just a little shake now. It's weird that they vanished. I've never seen that before. I'm not sure if that was my driver. I can't reproduce it, so I'm going to make the assumption that it was my... No, it can't be my driver. It just happened again. Interesting. I'm suspicious that and I have to confirm the suspicion, but I'm suspicious that because I'm shaking the anchor and it's shaking these raycasts and everything under the anchor, that we're having issues here. So we could make 2 shakers for each sprite. Shaker upper, shaker lower. And get access to both of my sprites. And then pass in sprite upper, sprite lower. And then down here, do shaker upper and shaker lower. This is going to be interesting though, because it would shake them at different amounts. I don't actually like this solution now that I think about it. I mean, I don't think I will. Yeah, look at, I mean, that's kind of cool almost. It's like this glitch effect on the player as they shake around their bodies. The top half and the lower half kind of almost glitch away from each other. Huh. I didn't think I was going to like it, but it actually is kind of cool. Yeah, and we're not having that weird issue of disappearing anymore. So I suspect that shaking the raycast was causing issues with the ground somehow. This is cool. This is a cool effect. The solution would be to, instead of shaking the anchor, to have some sort of, I'd probably have some sort of way to connect the two sprites again and shake them both. I'm looking at my reference project, and I did shake the anchor before and I didn't have any issues. So that's interesting. But I like the effect, so I'm going to leave it with this new solution. Okay. So let's look at this. If you don't, I guess I want to say, if you don't like the effect of shaking them both like that, then what you could do is create like a sprite anchor and then put both of your sprite nodes as a child of that. That way you could shake the sprite anchor and not shake the raycasts and collision boxes and stuff like that along with them. So it would be a new node called sprite anchor. I just use a node 2D, move it up here, call it sprite anchor, and then put both of these as children of it and then shake that. Okay, so if you don't like the effect, that would be the approach I would use to solving that problem. Now that we've addressed that, let's look at another issue. So say we're invincible and we move inside of this. Okay, our invincibility has for sure run out by now, right? But we don't take any damage because we're still inside of this enemy. Now if we come out and come back in, we take damage again. Okay, that works. But the reason we don't take any damage is because our hurt box is using an on-entered signal. Or our hitbox is technically using an on area entered. And that is the best way to check to see if we've entered a new area. But the problem is if we enter an area and then we're invincible and we never leave that area, it's never going to call on entered again because we're just staying in it. It only calls it when we enter it. There's a workaround for this problem. Excuse me. My voice is, I've been sick the last little bit. I'm getting better, but my voice is still not quite there. There is a solution to this problem, and it's to use the disabled property on collision boxes. Because if you disable them and then re-enable them again, it will re-trigger on area entered. I've found that that's the easiest way to solve this problem. So there's two ways we could approach it. We could just key disabled inside of our animation player. That's fine. And in this case, it's probably not a bad solution because our player's the only one who's ever going to have invincibility frames that I can think of. However, there is a more general purpose solution that we could have, which is we can go into our hurt boxes and we can come into the is invincible property and we can give it an inline setter, which means this function will be called every time we set is invincible. So it would be set value is invincible equals value. So if we create our own setter, we want to make sure that we actually update the value. Update is invincible to be whatever value we're setting it to. But we can also do some other things. One of the things that we could do is we could loop through the children. So let's get access to the children of this hitbox. Our children equal to get children. We can loop through them for child in children. We can check what type they are. If child not is collision shape 2D or child not is collision polygon 2D, continue. So if any of these children aren't a collision shape, we would just continue on with the loop and look for the ones that are. However, if they are, we would do child dot set deferred. The reason we have to call set deferred here is because we're going to get an error message if we try and manipulate a physics property like disabled inside of a physics collision event, which is what's going to happen when we're setting invincible here. We want to use set deferred, disabled, and then we're going to set disabled equal to is invincible. Expected in after not. If child not is collision shape 2D. Oh yeah, you can use is not now too. So is not. Is not. We'll do that. It seems to understand that better. If child is not collision shape 2D or child is not collision polygon 2D, continue. We want. But if it is, we want to set disabled equal to is invincible, which will just mean we'll disable it when we're invincible and we'll re-enable it when we're no longer invincible. And it should automatically do it for all children. So now, okay, we're not getting, it's not working here still. I think my logic here is flawed. So if the child is not a collision shape 2D and the child is not a collision polygon 2D, it's not either one of those. Why does this logic seem so hard to my brain right now? You know, I'm running on 5 hours of sleep and I woke up every hour, so. There we go. That was it though. My logic was flawed. That's kind of, the glitch effect of taking damage is kind of cool. Makes me think of like we need to make like some kind of cyberpunk ninja game because it just looks cool. Okay, lastly, we're doing good. This is a pretty good hit state. Lastly, for this video, what I'd like to do is set the flash to be red rather than white. And I just think it makes more sense for the player to flash red. However, we're going to have some issues, and I'll show you what they are. So select both sprite upper, sprite lower, select the material, and select the color, flash color. We'll set it to red, okay? Just real quick, and we'll run the game. And you'll see, oh, this works quite nicely. Our player, when they take damage, they flash red. That's what we want, right? Whoops, why are the enemies flashing red now instead of white? Didn't we have local to scene on? You know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. Why is flash enabled local to the scene, but then flash color isn't? Is it because we're setting flash enabled in code, but the flash color we're setting here in the editor, so then it automatically updates for the enemy cannons? If I set it in code for the player, is it going to work? I don't know. I don't know the answer to these questions. We're going to find out though. We're going to try. So we'll say sprite lower dot sprite lower dot material dot shader. Let's see. I know there's dot set shader. What's the function? I don't have autocomplete. Set shader parameter. Dot set shader parameter. Flash color an underscore color got red. I'm just going to do it on the lower to test. It's going to work. Hey, it did. In fact, I only needed to do it on the lower. So it must be because we're setting it in code somehow that allows it to work. Because if we set it in the editor, it sets it on all of the resource, like every resource. I'll take it, whatever. If it works in code, I'll take it, especially if we only have to set one of them. However, I don't actually want this color of red. I have a custom color of red that I think looks better. Color that goes with the palette that I used for this. So FF4D4D is the hex value for that color. You can set that, and voila. Got a nice hit effect when our player runs into something. And there's a little bit of invincibility too, to allow the player to get away from it if it needs to. This is the point the project was at when I started this series. Right, we have everything in here. I guess we don't have a moving camera, so we could add a moving camera, but that's pretty easy to do. You can literally just add a camera to the player. In the world here, we could just add a camera. There we go. Ta-da. Now we have a moving camera. And you probably want to offset it. But kind of fun to go outside the bounds of the level too. So this is the state that it was in. I still want to add enemy bullets and add player health. Those are kind of the two main things that I like to do. After we add enemy bullets and player health, I'm going to count this series as completed in quotations. I may choose to do some bonus videos, but that will have all the basics, right? Attacking, taking damage, player has health, enemies have health. Would have all the basics for a simple game like this, and kind of like in a prototype state. All of the basic systems would exist in the game. But yeah, we'd need to add those enemy bullets still. I'd like to be able to reflect the bullets with your sword. That would be cool. And let the bullets damage the enemies. And I'd like to be able to, again, add an actual player health value with some sort of UI, and then have the player die if they run out of health. So that's kind of what we're going to do before I consider this series completed. After this series, I'm probably going to redo my action RPG series that I did, 5 years ago or however long it was. I'm going to redo that in Godot 4. I've had a lot of requests for that, and I think there are a lot of people who want that. So that's likely, I'm not going to promise 100% because I don't know. That's likely what I'm going to do after this series. But hopefully you've learned something in this video and learned something in this series so far. If you did and enjoyed it, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to be notified of future uploads, and give me a comment down below if you have any questions. I will see you all in the next episode.